Hey, what is up YouTube? It's Malorn here and I'm here with another great video for you guys today. So we've got more Magnus Chase by Riordan. We are on chapter 54 and it is called Why You Should Not Use a Steak Knife as a Diving Board. It's about 80 pages, 80 to 100 pages left in this book because if I remember right, the last page is 491 and we are on page 388. So, let's go ahead and begin. Chapter 54, Why You Should Not Use a Steak Knife as a Diving Board. Rappelling down the wall was the easy part. When we reached the bottom, I started having serious doubts. The giantesses were definitely smaller than their dead sister, maybe 50 feet tall. If I'd been asked to wrestle one of their big toes, I could have won no problem. Other than that, I didn't like my chances. Feel like Jack up the beanstalk, I muttered. Sam laughed under her breath. Where do you think that story comes from? It's a cultural memory. A watered-down account of what happens when humans blunder into Jotunheim. Super. The sword buzzed in my hand. Besides, you can't be Jack. I'm Jack. Couldn't argue with that logic. We navigated across the stone floor through a wasteland of dust bunnies, food scraps, and grease puddles. The fireplace was so hot my clothes steamed. My hair crackled, and the smell of the giant's body odor, a combination of wet clay and sour meat, was almost as deadly as a sword flying up my nose. We got within shouting distance of the dining table, but the two giantesses still hadn't noticed us. They both wore sandals, size 120 leather dresses, and Flintstone-style necklaces made from polished boulders. Their stringy black hair was woven into pigtails. Their gray faces were hideously painted with rouge and lipstick. I didn't have my fashion advisor Blitzen with me, but I guess the giant sisters were dolled up for a girls' night out, even though it was barely lunchtime. Ready? Sam asked me. The answer was no, but I took a deep breath and yelled, "Hello!" The giantesses kept chatting, hanging their cups and chomping their meat. Or banging their cups and chomping their meat. I tried again. Yo! The big ladies froze. They scanned the room. Finally, the one on the left spotted us. She burst out laughing, spraying bits of meat and meat. More humans! I don't believe it. The other giantess leaned over. Is that another Valkyrie? And she sniffed the air. The boy is an Einherji. Perfect. I was just wondering what we'd have for dessert. We claim guest rights, I yelled. The giantess on the left made a sour face. Now why did you have to go and do that? We want to barter. I pointed to the birdcage, now so far above us I could only see its rusted base hovering like a moon. For that swan's freedom. And also, possibly, if you have any stolen weapons lying around, like, I don't know, a hammer or something. Smooth, Sam muttered. The giantesses looked at each other like they were trying not to giggle. They'd obviously been hitting the mead pretty hard. Very well, said the giantess on the left. I am Jalp. This is my sister Greg. We agree to host you while we barter. What are your names? I am Magnus, son of Natalie, I said, and this is Samira, daughter of Aisha, said Sam. You are welcome in the house of our father Gairad, said Jalp, but I can hardly hear you down there. Do you mind if I put you in a chair? Okay, I said. The other sister, Gripe, snatched us up like toys. She set us on an empty chair, its seat the size of a living room. The tabletop was still a good 5 feet above my head. Oh dear, Gripe said. That's still too low. May I raise your chair for you? Sam started to say, Magnus? I blurted out, sure. With a shriek of glee, Gripe picked up our chair and thrust it over her head. If not for the backrest, Sam and I would have been smashed flat against the ceiling. As it was, we got knocked off our feet and showered in plaster. Gripe put down the chair. It took a moment for my eyeballs to stop rattling, and then I saw the giantesses' scowling faces looking over us. It didn't work, Gripe said with obvious disappointment. Of course it didn't work, Jalp growled. You never do that trick right. I told you, it has to be something without a back, like a stool, and we should have installed those spikes in the ceiling. You were trying to kill us, I said. That can't be in the rules for good hosts. Kill you? Jacques looked offended. That's an absolutely baseless accusation. My sister only did as you requested. She asked your permission to raise the chair. You just said it was a trick. Did I? Jacques blinked. Up close, her heavily masqueraded lashes looked like an obstacle course for a mud run. Pretty sure I didn't. I looked at the Sword of Summer, which was still in my hand. Jack, have they broken the host rules yet? Because trying to kill us seems kinda borderline. Not unless they admit their intent, Jack said, and they're saying it was an accident. The giantesses both straightened. A talking sword, Jacques said. Well now, that's interesting. You sure I can't raise your chair for you again? Gripe offered. I could run to the kitchen and get a stool. It's no trouble. Honored hosts, Sam said, her voice shaky. Please put us gently and safely on top of your table so we may barter with you. Gripe muttered unhappily, but she did as Sam asked. The giantess deposited us next to her fork and knife, which were roughly the same size as me. Her mug would have made a fine water tower for a rural town. I just hoped it wasn't named Boom Daddy. So, Greep plodded back in her chair. You want freedom for the swan. You'll have to wait until our father gets home to negotiate terms. She is his prisoner, not ours. She's a Valkyrie, of course, Jacques added. Flew in our window last night. She refuses to show her true form. Thinks she can fool us by staying in that silly swan costume, but Dad is too clever for her. Bummer, I said. Well, we tried. Magnus, Sam chided. Gracious hosts, will you at least consent not to kill the swan until we've had a chance to speak with Gyrid? Jacques shrugged. Like I said, her fate is up to Dad. He might let her go if you surrendered yourselves in exchange, but I don't know. We need something spicy for the stew tonight. Let's put a pin in that, I said. Which is only an expression, Sam added hastily. By no means is my friend granting you permission to put a pin in anything, especially us. Nice save, I told her. Sam gave me a "you're such an idiot" look. I was getting used to that. Jacques crossed her arms, forming a new mesa against her chest. You said you also wanted to barter for a stolen weapon. Yeah, I said. Something thunder goddish, if you have it. Not that any particular thunder god is missing any particular weapon. Grape cackled. Oh, we have something like that. Something that belongs to Thor himself. Since Thor wasn't there to creatively cuss, Sam did the honors, muttering a few comments that I doubted her grandparents would approve of. Those are just expressions, I added hastily. In no way was my friend giving you permission to do any of those rude and colorful things. Will you barter with us for the weapon you speak of? Of course, Jacques grinned. In fact, I'd like to wrap up these negotiations quickly since my sister and I have an appointment. With hot frost giant twins, Gripe said. So we'll make you a fair deal, Jacques continued. We'll give you Thor's weapon for that lovely talking sword, and we'll release the swan. I'm pretty sure Dad will be okay with that, as long as you give yourselves in exchange. You won't get a better deal than that. That's hardly a deal, Sam growled. Then you can refuse, Gripe said, and leave in peace. It's all the same to us. Jack thrummed indignantly, his runes glowing. Magnus, you'd never give me up, right? We're friends. You're not like your dad, gonna toss me aside as soon as you see something you like better. Thought about Loki's suggestion that I give the sword to my Uncle Randolph. At the time, I'd actually been tempted. Now the idea seemed impossible, and only partly because the giantesses wanted to put us in a cage and have us for dinner. Jack had saved our lives at least twice now. I liked him, even if he did occasionally call me Signor. An alternative came to me. A bad idea? Yes, but better than the giant's offer. Jack, I said, hypothetically speaking, if I told these giantesses how we killed their sister, would that break the rules of guest etiquette? What? Jacques cried. Jack's runes glowed a more cheerful shade of red. No etiquette problem there, my friend, because that happened before we were guests here. Okay. I smiled at the giantesses. We killed your sister. Big, ugly lady trying to block the river and drown Thor? Yeah, she's dead now. Lies! Jacques shot to her feet. Puny humans, you could not possibly have killed our sister. Actually, my sword flew up her nose and scrambled her brains. Grape howled in outrage. I should have crushed you like bugs. Cursed my lack of stolen, strategically placed ceiling spikes. I'll admit, having two giantesses towering over me bellowing death threats was a wee bit unnerving, but Sam kept her cool. She pointed her axe accusingly at Grape. So you were trying to kill us just now. Of course, you dolt, which violates the rules of hosts. Who cares? Grape cried. Magnus's sword does, Sam said. Jack, did you hear that? I sure did. I'd like to point out, though, that the effort required to kill those two giantesses might be too much. Do it! I hurled the sword. Jack spiraled upwards, straight into Grape's right nostril and outer left. The giantess collapsed, shaking the room at 6.8 on the Richter scale. Jalp stifled a scream. She covered her nose and mouth and stumbled around as Jack tried in vain to stab his way through her fingers. Oh, this one is getting smart, Jack yelled. A little help over here. Magnus! Sam pushed the giantess's steak knife to the edge of the table until the blade extended like a diving board. I got what she wanted me to do. It was stupid crazy, but I didn't give myself time to reflect. I ran full tilt at the knife and jumped toward the end of the blade. Sam yelled, Wait! By then I was already in midair. I landed on the knife, which catapulted upward as I dropped. The plan worked, sort of. I landed on the empty seat of the chair, which was not far enough down to kill me, but was enough to break my leg. Hooray! The pain drove a hot nail up the base of my spine. Jalp got it worse. The spinning steak knife hit her in the chest. It didn't impale her, it didn't even go through her dress, but the poke was enough to make her yell. She lowered her hands, grabbing instinctively for her chest, which allowed Jack full access to her nose. A second later, Jalp was lying dead on the floor next to her sister. Magnus! Sam lowered herself off the table and dropped next to me on the chair. You fool! I wanted you to help me throw a salt shaker on the blade. I didn't expect you to jump on it yourself. You're welcome, I grimaced. Also, ow. Is it broken? Yeah, don't worry, I'm a fast healer. Give me an hour. I don't think we have, Sam started to say. From the next room, a deep voice boomed. Girls, I'm home. Chapter 55. I'm carried into battle by the 1st Dwarven Airborne Division. There's never a great time for Daddy Giant to come home. But when you're sitting in his dining room with your leg broken, the corpses of 2 of his daughters sprawled nearby, that's an especially bad time. Sam and I stared at each other as the giant's footsteps echoed louder and louder in the next chamber. Sam's expression said, I got nothing. I also had nothing, which is exactly the sort of moment when you might welcome a dwarf, an elf, and a swan parachuting onto your chair. Blitzen and Hearth were lashed side by side in the harness with Ganilla the waterfowl cradled in Hearthstone's arms. Blitzen pulled the steering toggles and executed a perfect landing. Behind him pulled the parachute, a swath of turquoise silk that exactly matched Blitz's suit. That was the only fact about his entrance that did not surprise me. How? I asked. Blitzen scoffed. Why do you look so amazed? You distracted those giantesses long enough. Be a poor dwarf indeed if I couldn't rip a grappling hook, shoot a line from the window to the birdcage, shimmy across, free the swan, and use my emergency parachute to get down here. Sam pinched her nose. You've had an emergency parachute this entire time. Don't be silly, Blitzen said. Dwarves always carry emergency parachutes, don't you? We'll talk about this later, I said. Right now, girls, called the giant from the next room. His speech sounded a little slurred. What? Where are you? I snapped my fingers. Come on, guys. Options. Sam, can you and Ganilla camouflage us? My hijab can only cover 2 people, Sam said. And Ganilla, the fact that she's still a swan might indicate she's too weak to change back to normal. The swan honked. I'll take that as a yes, Sam said. It could be a few hours. Which we don't have. I looked at Hearth. Runestones? No strength, he sighed, though he hardly needed to tell me that. He was upright and conscious, but still looked like he'd been run over by an 8-legged horse. Jack, I called to the sword. Where is Jack? From the table above us, the sword yelled, Dude, what? I'm washing off in this goblet. Give a guy some privacy, huh? Magnus, Sam said, you can't ask him to kill 3 giants in a row. That much effort really will kill you. In the next room, the footsteps got louder. The giant sounded like he was stumbling. Jalp? Gripe? I swear. Hick. If you're texting those frost giant boys again, I will wring your necks. Wow. The floor, I decided. Get me to the floor. Blitzen scooped me up, which almost made me black out from pain. He yelled, "Hang on," and leapt from the chair, somehow managing to paraglide me down safely. By the time I regained my senses, Sam Harth and his new pet Swan were standing next to us, apparently having used the chair leg as a fire pole. I shivered with nausea. My face was slick with sweat, and my broken leg felt like one enormous open blister, but we had no time for minor concerns like my unbearable pain. Across the threshold of the dining room door, the shadows of the giant's feet got closer and darker, though they did seem to be weaving back and forth. "Blitzen, carry me under that door," I said. "We have to intercept Gyrod." "Excuse me?" asked the door. "You're strong. You're already holding me. Hurry." Grumbling, he jogged toward the door, every bounce sending a stab of pain into the base of my skull. The parachute slithered behind us. Sam and Hearth followed, the Swan honking unhappily in Hearthstone's arms. The doorknob started to turn. We ducked under the sill and charged out the other side, right between the giant's feet. I yelled, "Hi, how you doing?" Gyrod stumbled back. I guess he hadn't been expecting to see a paratrooper dwarf carrying a human, followed by another human and an elf holding a swan. I wasn't prepared for what I saw either. For one thing, the room we entered was about half the size of the one we just left. By most standards, the hall would have been considered grand. The black marble floor gleamed. Rows of stone columns were interspersed with iron braziers, filled with burning coals like dozens of barbecue grills. But the ceilings were only about 25 feet tall. Even the door we'd come through was smaller on this side, though that made no sense. Squeezing back under the sill would be impossible. In fact, I didn't see how Jalper or Gripe could have fit through the doorway unless they changed size as they moved from room to room. Maybe that's what they did. Giants were shapeshifters. Magic and illusion were second nature to them. If I spent much more time here, I'd have to bring a large supply of motion sickness medicine and some 3D glasses. In front of us, Gyrod was still staggering around, sloshing mead from his drinking horn. "Who are you?" he slurred. "Guests," I called. "We have claimed guest rights." I doubted those applied anymore since we'd killed our hosts, but since my etiquette-minded sword was still in the next room, washing the nostril goo off his blade, nobody challenged me. Gyrod frowned. He looked like he'd just come from a wild party at the Jotunheim Marquee, which was weird since the day was young. Giants apparently partied 24/7. He wore a rumpled mauve jacket and untucked black dress shirt, stripped slacks, and dress shoes that many patent leather animals had died to create. His dark hair was greased back but springing up in unruly cowlicks. His face had a 3-day stubble. He reeked of fermented honey, and the overall impression was less fashionable nightclub dude and more well-dressed wino. The weirdest thing about him was his size. I'm not going to say he was short. 20 feet tall is still good if you're looking for somebody to play point in the NBA or change those hard-to-reach light bulbs. But the guy was minuscule compared to his daughters, who were, of course, now dead. Gyrod belched. Judging from his expression, he was making a mighty effort to form rational thoughts. "If you're guests, why have you got my swan? And where are my daughters?" Sam forced a laugh. "Oh, those crazy girls. We were bartering with them for your swan." "Yeah," I said. "Right now they're on the floor in the other room. They don't look so good. I mind drinking from a bottle, which probably confused Hearthstone as it looked like the sign for I love you." Gyrod seemed to get my meaning. His shoulders relaxed as if the idea of his daughters passing out drunk on the floor was nothing to be concerned about. "Well then," he said, "as long as they weren't entertaining those frost giant boys again." "Nope, just us," I assured him. Blitzen grunted as he shifted me in his arms. Heavy. Hearthstone, trying to keep up with the conversation, signed, "I love you," at the giant. "Oh, great Gyrod," Sam said. "We actually came here to bargain for Thor's weapon. Your daughters told us you have it." Gyrod glanced to his right. Against the far wall, almost hidden behind a column, was a human-sized iron door. "And the weapon is behind that door?" I guess. Gyrod's eyes widened. "What sorcery is this? How did you know that?" "We want to barter for the weapon," I repeated. And Hearthstone's arms again honked irritably. "And also for the freedom of this swan," Sam added. "Ha!" Gyrod sloshed more mead from his drinking horn. "I don't need anything you could offer, but perhaps you could earn the weapon and the golden goose." "The swan," I corrected. "Whatever," said the giant. Blitzen whimpered, heavy, very heavy. The pain in my leg made it hard to think. Every time Blitzen moved, I wanted to scream, but I tried to keep a clear head. What did you have in mind? I asked the giant. Entertain me. Join me in a game. Like words with friends? What? No, like catch. He gestured disdainfully toward the dining room. I have only daughters, and they never want to play catch with me. I like playing catch. Play catch with me. I glanced at Sam. I think he wants to play catch. Bad idea, she murmured. Survive 10 minutes, Gyrod said. That's all I ask. Then I'll be happy. Survive? I asked. A game of catch. Good, so you agree. He stumbled to the nearest brazier and scooped up a red-hot coal the size of an easy chair. Go long. Alright. A little bit of drink. Oh. Chapter 56. Never ask a dwarf to go long. See how many pages are on this chapter real quick. Oh boy. This is going to be a fun one. Run! I told Blitzen. Run, run, run! Blitzen, who was still trailing the parachute, only managed a dazed stumble. Heavy, very heavy, he wheezed again. We made it about 20 feet before Gyrod yelled, catch! The four of us ducked behind the nearest column as a coal cannonball slammed against it, burning a hole straight through the stone and spraying ash and sparks over our heads. The column groaned. Cracks spread all the way up to the ceiling. Run more, Sam yelped. We shambled across the hall as Gyrod scooped coals and threw them with appalling accuracy. If he hadn't been drunk, we would have been in serious trouble. The next salvo set Blitzen's parachute on fire. Sam was able to cut it off with her axe, but we lost valuable time. Another chunk of flaming apocalypse blasted a crater in the floor next to us, singeing Ganilla's wings and Hearthstone's scarf. Sparks flew into Blitzen's eyes. I'm blind, he yelled. I'll direct you, I shouted. Left, left, your other left. Meanwhile, across the hall, Gyrod was having a grand old time singing in Jotunese, staggering from brazier to brazier, occasionally dousing himself in mead. Come on now, little guests. This is not how you play. You're supposed to catch the coals and throw them back. I looked around desperately for exits. There was one other door on the wall directly across from the dining room, but it was too small to crawl under and too big to force open, not to mention barred with a tree trunk beam across iron brackets. For the first time since becoming an Einarharji, I was annoyed that my super quick healing wasn't super quick enough. If we were going to die, I at least wanted to be standing on my own 2 feet. I glanced at the ceiling. Above the last column Gyrod had hit, cracks spread across the roof. The column bowed, ready to snap. I remembered the first time my mom had made me set up our camping tent by myself. The poles had been a nightmare. Getting them to hold the roof required just the right balance of tension, but making them collapse, that was easy. I've got an idea, I said. Blitzen, you're gonna have to carry me a little while longer unless Sam... no, Sam said. I'm fine, Blitzen whimpered. I'm just great. I can almost see again. Okay, everybody, I said. We're gonna run toward the giant. Didn't need sign language to read Hearth's expression. Are you crazy? The swan gave me the same look. Just follow my lead, I said. It'll be fun. Please, Sam begged. Don't let those words be carved on my tombstone. I yelled at the giant. Hey, Gyrod, you throw like a folkmonger person. What? Bah! Gyrod turned to scoop up another coal. Straight at him, I told my friends, go! As the giant prepared to throw, I told Blitzen, right, go right. We all ducked behind the nearest pillar. Gyrod's coal bored straight through it, spewing cinders and sending more cracks up the ceiling. Now left, I told my friends, toward him and up another row. What are you... Sam's eyes widened with understanding. Oh, God, you really are crazy. Got a better idea? Sadly, no. We ran across Gyrod's line of sight. Your daughters aren't drunk, I shouted. They're dead. What? No. Another coal cannonball hurtled toward us, hitting the nearest column with such force it collapsed into a pile of colossal stone lifesavers. The ceiling groaned. The cracks spread again. We ran into the central aisle and I yelled, missed again! Gyrod howled in fury. He tossed aside his drinking horn so he could scoop coals with both of his hands. Fortunately for us, his anger and his double-handed throwing made his aim terrible. We jogged around him, weaving from column to column as he splattered coal everywhere, tipping over braziers, breaking pillars. I insulted Gyrod's suit, his haircut, his patent leather shoes. Finally, the giant tossed an entire brazier at us, taking out the last support pillar on the side of the room. "Retreat," I told Blitzen. "Go, now!" Poor Blitzen huffed and wheezed. We ran for the far wall as Gyrod shouted, "Cowards! I will kill you!" He easily could have run after us and caught us, but the giant's drunken mind was still thinking in terms of projectile weapons. He searched around him for more coals as the ceiling above him crumbled. Too late, he realized what was happening. He looked up and screamed as half the room collapsed on top of him, burying Gyrod under 1,000 tons of rock. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor in a whiteout of dust and debris, trying my best to cough up my lungs. Slowly, the air cleared. A few feet away, Sam sat, cross-legged, also hacking and gasping, looking like she'd been rolled in flour. "Blitzen," I called. "Harv?" I was so worried about them I forgot about my broken leg. Tried to stand and was surprised to find that I could. The leg still throbbed with agony, but it held my weight. Blitzen came stumbling out of a dust cloud. "Present," he squeaked. His suit was ruined, his hair and beard had gone prematurely gray with plaster. I tackled him in a hug. "You," I said, "are the strongest, most amazing dwarf ever." "Okay, kid, okay." He patted my arm. "Where's Hearthstone?" "Hearth!" In moments like that, we forgot that yelling Hearthstone's name wasn't really helpful. "Here he is," Sam called, brushing some rubble off the fallen elf. "I think he's okay." "Thank Odin!" Blitz started forward, but almost fell. "Whoa there!" I propped him against one of the remaining columns. "Just rest for a sec. I'll be right back." I jogged over to Sam and helped her extract Hearthstone from the wreckage. His hair was smoldering, but otherwise he looked all right. We pulled him to his feet. Immediately he started scolding me in sign language. "Stupid? Trying to kill us?" It took me a second to realize he wasn't holding the swan. "Wait," I said. "Where's Ganilla?" Behind me, Blitzen yelped. I turned and discovered a hostage situation in progress. "I'm right here," Ganilla snarled. She was back in human form, standing behind Blitzen, the point of her broken spear pressed to his throat. Of her blazing spear pressed to his throat. "And the 4 of you are coming back to Valhalla as my prisoners." Chapter 57. Sam hits the eject button. So apparently chapter 56 wasn't as long as I thought it was. It looked like it was 9 pages, but I must have just missed the chapter page. Oh. Okay. Chapter 57. Sam hits the eject button. Ganilla jabbed her spear tip against Blitz's jugular. "No closer," she warned. "Rogues and liars, all of you. You've endangered Midgard and Asgard, roused the giants, caused chaos across the realms. We also rescued you from a birdcage," I added, "after luring me here in the first place." "Nobody lured you," I said. "Nobody asked you to hunt us." "Ganilla." Samira placed her axe on the floor. "Let the dwarf go, please." Blitzen agreed. The Valkyrie captain glanced at Hearthstone. "You, elf, don't even think about it. Put that bag of runestones on the floor or I will burn you to ashes." Hadn't even realized Hearthstone was about to make a move. He complied with Ganilla's order, though his eyes blazed. He looked like he wanted to do something much worse to Ganilla than put her in a magic hamster wheel. Sam raised her palms. "We're not going to fight you. Please, release the dwarf. We all know what a Valkyrie spear can do." I didn't, actually, but I tried to look as meek and harmless as possible. As exhausted as I felt, it wasn't hard. Ganilla eyed me. "Where is your sword, Magnus?" I gestured to the ruined end of the hall. Last I checked, he was taking a bath in a goblet. Ganilla considered that. It was the sort of statement that only made sense in the loony world of the Vikings. "Very well." She shoved Blitzen toward me. She swept her spear forward, keeping us all within striking distance. The weapon's light was so intense I felt like it was baking my skin. "We will return to Asgard as soon as my full strength returns," said Ganilla. "In the meantime, explain why you were asking the giants about Thor's weapon." "Oh, I remembered Thor being pretty specific about not telling anyone of his missing hammer." "Well, a trick," Sam interrupted, "to confuse the giants." Ganilla narrowed her eyes. "A dangerous trick. If the giants believed Thor had lost his hammer, the consequences would be unthinkable." Speaking of unthinkable, I said, Cert is going to release Fenris Wolf tomorrow night. Tonight, Sam corrected. My stomach dropped. Isn't it Tuesday? Freya said the full moon was Wednesday, which technically starts at sundown on Tuesday, Sam said. The full moon rises tonight. Well, that's just wonderful, I said. Why didn't you say so? Thought you understood. Silence, both of you, Gunilla ordered. Magnus Chase, you've fallen for the lies of the daughter of Loki. You mean the full moon isn't tonight? No, it's tonight. Gunilla scowled. Stop confusing me. Blitzen whimpered as she throttled him with her light spear. Hearthstone edged next to me, his fists clenching. I raised my hands. Gunilla, all I'm saying is, if you don't let us go, we can't stop Cert. I warned you, Gunilla said. Listening to Samira will only hasten Ragnarok. Feel fortunate I have found you rather than the other Valkyries who are hunting you, or your former Einarhar hallmates. They're anxious to prove their loyalty to Valhalla by killing you. I, at least, will make sure you get a proper trial before the Thanes cast your soul into Ginnungagap. Samira and I exchanged glances. We didn't have time to be captured and sent back to Asgard. I definitely didn't have time to get my soul cast into a place I couldn't even pronounce. Right. I don't know how you pronounce that. It's basically like the gap between worlds or something like that. It's so hard to pronounce. Hearthstone saved us. His face became transfixed with horror. He pointed behind Gunilla as if Geirrod was rising from the rubble. It was the oldest trick in the Nine Worlds, and it worked. Gunilla glanced behind her. Sam lunged with blinding speed. Instead of trying to tackle the Valkyrie captain, she simply touched the golden bracer on Gunilla's arm. The air hummed as if someone had turned on an industrial vacuum cleaner. Gunilla shrieked. She stared at Sam in dismay. What have you... The Valkyrie imploded. She collapsed into a pinpoint of light and was gone. Sam? I couldn't believe what had happened. You killed her? Of course not. Sam swatted my arm. Thankfully, I did not implode. I just recalled her to Valhalla. The armband? Asked Blitzen. Sam smiled modestly. I didn't know if it would work. I guess my fingerprints haven't been deregistered from the Valkyrie database yet. Hearthstone rolled his hand. Explain. Valkyrie armbands have an emergency evacuation feature, Sam said. If a Valkyrie is wounded in battle and needs immediate attention, another Valkyrie can send her back to the halls of healing simply by touching her armband. She'll be instantly extracted, but it's powerful magic. One use and the armband melts. I blinked. So, Gunilla got yanked to Valhalla. Yep, but I haven't bought us much time. She'll be back as soon as she gathers her strength. I imagine she'll bring reinforcements, too. Thor's hammer, I said. The storage room. We ran for the small iron door. I'd like to say I'd carefully planned the ceiling's collapse to make sure the door didn't get buried in wreckage. In truth, I just got lucky. Sam's axe cut through the lock in the one swipe. Hearthstone yanked open the door. Inside was a closet, empty except for an iron pole the size of a broom handle leaning against the corner. Well, I said, that's kind of anticlimactic. Blitzen studied the iron pole. I don't know, kid. See this rune work? It isn't Mjolnir, but the staff was forged with powerful magic. Sam's face fell. Oh. Thor's weapon. Just not the right weapon. Blitzen nodded sagely. I agreed. Would one of you tell me what you're talking about? Kid, this is Thor's backup weapon, Blitz explained. The staff was a gift from a friend of his, the giantess Grid. 3 questions, I said. First, Thor has a giantess friend? Yes, Blitz said. Not all giants are bad. Second, do all giantess names begin with G? No. Last question. Thor is a martial artist? Does he have, backup nunchucks, too? Hey, kid, don't diss the staff. It may not be dwarven work like the hammer, but giant forged armor is still powerful stuff. I hope we're able to pick it up and carry it back to Thor. I'm sure it's heavy and protected by enchantments. You needn't worry about that, bellowed a voice above. From one of the high windows, the god of thunder soared into the room on a chariot, pulled by Otis and Marvin. My sword, Jack, floated along next to them. Thor landed in front of us, all in his grungy glory. Good work, mortals, he grinned. You found the staff. That's better than nothing. And dude, said Jack, I take one quick bath, I turn around, and not only have you left the room, but you've collapsed the exit. What's a sword supposed to think? I bit back a comment. Yeah, sorry, Jack. Thor reached out toward the supply closet. The iron rod flew into his hand. Thor executed a few thrusts, swipes, and baton twirls. Yes, this will do nicely until I find that other weapon, which is not officially missing. Thanks. Tried to resist the urge to smack him. You have a flying chariot? Of course, he laughed. Thor without his flying chariot would be like a dwarf without an emergency parachute. Thank you, Blitzen said. You could have flown us straight here, I noted. You could have saved us a day and a half and several close calls with death. But you let us climb that cliff, navigate a chasm. I would never deprive you of the chance to prove your heroism, the Thunder God said. Blitzen whimpered. Hearthstone sighed. I hate this god. Exactly, Mr. Elf, Thor said. I gave you the opportunity to prove your mettle. You're quite welcome. Otis bleated and clopped his hooves. Besides, the boss couldn't show up here without a hammer, especially since his daughter was stuck in that birdcage. Sam flinched. You knew about that? Thor scowled at his goat. Otis, we need to have another talk about you keeping your snout shut. Sorry. Otis hung his horns. Go ahead and kill me. It's fine. Marvin nipped him. Will you shut up? Every time you get killed, I get killed. Thor rolled his eyes at the ceiling. What kind of animals would you like pulling your chariot, Thor? My dad asked me. Goats, I said. Flying, reconsumable goats would be great. Could have chosen dragons or lions, but no. He faced Sam. To answer your question, yes, I sensed Ganilla was here. Can usually tell when one of my children is nearby. Figured if you could save her, that would be a nice bonus, but I also didn't want her learning about my missing hammer. That information is a bit sensitive. You should feel honored I told you about it, daughter of Loki. Sam inched away. You know about that? Listen, Lord Thor... Girl, stop calling me Lord. I'm a god of the common people, not a lord. And don't worry, I won't kill you. Not all of Loki's breed is evil. Even Loki himself... He heaved a sigh. Kinda miss the guy. Sam looked at him sideways. You do? Oh, sure, Thor scratched his red beard. Most of the time I wanted to kill him, like when he cut off all my wife's hair or convinced me to wear a bridal gown. Do what now? I asked. But Loki made life interesting, Thor continued. People got the idea we were brothers, which isn't true. He was Odin's blood brother. Still, I understand how the rumor got started. Hate to admit it, but Loki and I made a good team. Like Marvin and me, Otis suggested. My therapist says, Shut up, you dolt, said Marvin. Thor twirled his iron staff. At any rate, thanks for this. It will help until I can find that other item. And please, do not mention my loss to anyone, not even my children, especially not them. Otherwise, I'd have to kill you, and I might even feel bad about that. But what will you do with Mjolnir? Sam asked. How will you... Watch television? Thor shrugged. I know, the screen size and resolution at the end of the staff are pitiful, but I will have to make do. As for you, the island of Lingvi rises from the waves tonight. You must hurry. Goodbye, mortals. And, hold up, I said, we need the location of the island. Thor frowned. Oh, right, I was supposed to give that to you. Well, all you have to do is seek out the Dwarf brothers at the Long Wharf in Boston. They will take you to the island. Their boat usually leaves at sunset. Ah, dwarves, Blitz nodded approvingly. We can trust them then. Oh no, Thor said. They'll try to kill you at the first opportunity, but they do know the way to the island. Thor, said Sam. Won't you come with us? This is an important battle. The Fire Lord Surt, Fenris Wolf, surely that's worthy of your attention. Thor's right eye twitched. That's a fine offer, really. I'd love to, but I have another pressing appointment. Game of Thrones, Marvin explained. Shut up! Thor raised his staff over our heads. Use your time well, heroes. Prepare for battle and be at the Long Wharf by sundown. The room started to spin. Jack the sword flew into my hand, flooding me with exhaustion. I braced myself against the nearest column. Thor, where are you sending us? The Thor god chuckled. Wherever you each need to go. Jotunheim collapsed around me, like a tent falling on my head. Alright, guys, that's chapter... That was like 54 to 57 or something along those lines. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, be sure to comment, and be sure to subscribe for more amazing videos. I will see you guys next time. Peace out. Oh, I am exhausted.